The diplomatic ship from Earth arrived under a sky that never changed color. The alien world was old, silent, and heavy with history. Humans had been invited only because the galaxy needed balance, not because it respected them. To the ruling species, humans were fragile, emotional, and temporary, useful in small ways, but never important, never equal. The alien queen stood at the center of the grand platform, tall, still, and covered in living armor that shimmered like dark water. Her eyes showed no warmth, only awareness. She ruled a civilization that existed long before humans learned fire. Beside her stood the royal child, small compared to the guards, but surrounded by layers of protection. The child was the future of the empire, and everyone knew it. The human delegation stood far back, placed where observers belonged. Among them was one man, not important enough to be named in records, not important enough to be watched closely. He was there to witness, not to act. The ceremony began. Words were spoken in languages humans could barely translate. Energy fields glowed softly. Security systems hummed in perfect order. Then something went wrong. At first, it was only a flicker, a delay that should not exist in alien technology. Then the sound came, sharp and wrong. Not ceremonial, not controlled. A weapon discharged. The platform erupted into confusion. Guards froze as systems failed at the same time. Defensive shields dropped instead of rising. Panic spread through a species that had not felt fear in centuries. The target was clear, the royal child. In that moment, no one moved. No one except the human. He did not wait for orders. He did not calculate odds. He did not think about treaties or consequences. He ran, without armor, without a weapon, without permission. The blast struck again, and the human threw himself forward, wrapping his body around the child. Pain tore through him. Heat burned through flesh and bone. Blood spilled onto the white platform, bright and unmistakable. Aliens stared, because humans were not supposed to survive that. Humans were not supposed to bleed that much and still move. The human screamed, not in fear, but in effort. He held the child down as debris fell around them. His back took the damage meant for royal blood. The attack stopped as suddenly as it began. Security systems rebooted. Guards finally reacted. The assassin was gone. The threat ended. The child lived. The human did not move. His blood spread across alien stone. His breathing was shallow and uneven. Silence fell. The alien queen stepped forward slowly. Her guards moved to block her, then stopped at a single gesture. She looked down at the human, at the broken body that should already be dead, at the child clinging to him, unharmed. Her face showed nothing. No anger, no gratitude, no mercy. The council waited, afraid to speak. This moment was not in any future they had seen. The queen finally turned to them, her voice calm and absolute. "Take him to the inner chamber." Not the medical bay. The words sent a shock through the assembly. The inner chamber was not for healing. It was for judgment, for decisions that changed history. The human was lifted carefully, still breathing, still alive against all expectation. As he was carried away, the queen remained still. Her gaze followed him, not with emotion, but with something far more dangerous: interest. The galaxy would ask later why she made that choice, whether it was honor or punishment, whether the human had been saved or condemned. But for now, one truth was clear. A human had done what an empire could not, and nothing would be the same again. If you want to hear how this moment changes the fate of an entire galaxy, gently support the channel by subscribing, so you do not miss what comes next. The human woke slowly, pulled back into awareness by pain that felt deep and distant. Light pressed down on his eyes even though he could not see a single source. The air was thick, heavy with a strange calm that did not belong to hospitals. His body would not move. Restraints held his arms and legs in place, not tight, but absolute. They were not chains. They were fields, silent and invisible. He was alive. That alone felt impossible. The chamber around him was wide and circular. The walls curved inward like the inside of a shell. Symbols moved slowly across the surface, reacting to his breathing. This was not a medical room. There were no tools, no screens, No signs of care. Only observation. As his mind cleared, memory returned. The platform. The child. The heat. The moment his body chose before his thoughts did. Footsteps echoed, slow and deliberate. Not guards. Not council members. The alien queen entered alone. She stood at a distance, watching him as if he were a rare specimen. Her presence filled the room without sound. Her eyes were sharp, ancient, and deeply unsettled. "You live," she said, not as relief, not as praise, as fact. He tried to speak. Pain cut the attempt short. "You should not," the queen continued. "Our records show no human survived such injury." Silence followed. Then she spoke again. "You saved royal blood." The words carried weight. He could feel even through the restraints. He did not understand their meaning yet, but he understood their danger. Among her kind, she explained, bloodlines were not just family. They were destiny. To save the royal child was not an act of courage. It was interference. Their species believed fate flowed in fixed paths. Royal death shaped empires. Royal survival shaped centuries. By acting, the human had broken a line that was never meant to bend. To humans, saving a child was simple. To them, it was unforgivable. The queen stepped closer. Her shadow covered him completely. She asked only one question. "Why did you act?" No accusation. No anger. Just demand. The human swallowed. His voice came weak but steady. "Because the child was going to die." The queen did not respond. She waited. "There was no time," he continued. "I didn't think. I just moved." Still silence. "I didn't do it for reward. I didn't do it for your people. I didn't even know who the child was." He paused, breathing through pain. "I did it because someone had to." That answer disturbed her more than any lie could have. Her species acted by calculation, by probability, by outcome. Humans acted by impulse, by emotion, by choice without certainty. She stepped back, as if distance could protect her from the idea. Outside the chamber, the council gathered. Their voices rose in sharp disagreement. Some demanded execution. A human altering royal fate was unacceptable. Others feared the consequences. If the human died, what would that mean for the child? For destiny already disturbed. They argued because humans were not supposed to matter this much. They were not supposed to carry weight in decisions older than their species. Inside the chamber, the queen listened to none of them. She turned back to the human. Her voice lowered, quieter than before. "You have bound yourself to something you do not understand." He met her gaze. Still human. Still afraid. Still unashamed. "I'd do it again," he said. That was the moment her expression changed. Not to anger. Not to respect. To concern. She left the chamber without another word. The doors sealed behind her. Hours passed, or perhaps days. Time meant nothing there. Finally, the doors opened again. This time the council stood with her. Their faces tense, divided, uncertain. The queen raised her hand. Silence followed instantly. She spoke words that had not been spoken in thousands of cycles. Words that did not exist in human language. Then she translated, slowly, carefully. "This human is now bound to the child." Shock rippled through the council. That status had no precedent. No rule. No law. Not guardian. Not servant. Not ally. Something new. The queen's eyes locked onto the human. Her voice firm. "Your life no longer follows your own fate. It follows hers." And in that moment, the universe shifted quietly. Because a human had become something destiny could no longer ignore. The galaxy did not react with celebration. It reacted with fear. News traveled faster than ships. Faster than official records. Whispers moved through trade routes, war councils, and ancient courts. A human had touched royal fate. A human now stood inside a bloodline that shaped empires. To many races, this was not an accident. It was a warning. Some believed the queen had lost control. Others believed humanity was more dangerous than predicted. A species that acted without permission, without calculation, without fear of consequence. The human did not see any of this at first. He was kept alive, healed enough to walk, but never free. Always watched, always surrounded by quiet guards who never blinked. He felt it before he understood it. The way rooms grew tense when he entered, the way conversations stopped, the way eyes followed him as if he were a weapon left unattended. He did not want power. He did not want importance. He only wanted to leave. But the galaxy had already decided he mattered. The first assassination attempt came without warning. A service corridor. A maintenance shift meant for machines, not people. The guards moved too late, because the attack was not direct. It was clever. Gravity reversed for half a second. Enough to break bones. Enough to kill most beings. The human did not fight it with strength. He rolled, grabbed a railing, let instinct guide movement where training failed. He survived by adapting, by reacting faster than the system expected, by being human. The second attempt came days later. A poisoned atmosphere adjustment, calibrated for alien biology. Not his. He felt sick, dizzy, but lived. Because human lungs processed it differently. Each failed attempt made things worse, not safer. The council grew louder. Some demanded immediate execution to restore balance. Others feared what killing him might trigger. The queen watched all of it in silence. She began to observe him personally. Not from a throne. Not from behind layers of protocol. She watched how he learned. How he adjusted to alien routines. How he noticed small changes in pattern and behavior. He did not challenge authority. He did not demand answers. He adapted quietly. That unsettled her more than rebellion ever could. Humans were supposed to break under pressure. Instead, he changed shape. Not physically, but mentally. The child remained close to him, often appearing when guards were distracted, drawn by something no one could measure. That connection terrified the court. A human influencing thought, influencing behavior, influencing future rulers. To the galaxy, this was contamination. More assassins came. Some hired, some loyal to ancient fears. Each time, the human survived. Not because he was stronger, but because he learned. He watched routes, noted rhythms, understood timing. Where aliens trusted systems, he trusted awareness. The queen confronted him after the fourth attempt. Her tone calm, but edged with something close to frustration. "You should be dead," she said. He answered honestly. "So I'm told." She studied him for a long time, as if trying to place him inside a model that no longer worked. "You alter probability simply by existing," she said. "Your survival creates instability." He did not argue. He did not deny it. "I'm just trying to stay alive," he said. That answer stayed with her longer than it should have. Later, during a private council session, she spoke words that changed how he was seen. Not as protected, not as honored, but as dangerous. "He is not attacking us," she said. "He is not commanding us." But systems bend around him. Silence followed. Then she added, quieter, "That is worse." She ordered increased observation, not confinement, not punishment. Study. The human felt it immediately. The weight of attention, the sense of being measured against futures he could not see. One night, as stars shifted outside the palace, the queen stood beside him on a viewing platform. "You do not seek dominance," she said. "You do not seek legacy." He shook his head. "I just made a choice." She looked at him then, truly looked, not as ruler, not as judge, but as something unsettled by possibility. "Your kind should not exist like this," she said. Not as an insult, not as a threat, as a realization. Because if one human could do this, then humanity itself was no longer small, no longer predictable, and the galaxy was not ready for that. The child began coming when no one was watching, not during lessons, not during ceremonies, but in quiet moments between schedules. At first it was an accident, a wrong turn in a hallway, a pause near a garden meant only for thought. The human noticed small footsteps before he saw the child. Light, careful, unsure. "You should not be here," he said softly. Not as a command, as concern. The child tilted their head, studied him with wide, curious eyes, then sat down beside him without permission. That was how it began. They did not speak much at first. The child watched how the human breathed, how he reacted to silence, how he smiled without reason. The human showed small things without meaning to, how to listen instead of calculate, how to ask questions without expecting answers. He told simple stories, not of heroes or war, but of home, of mistakes, of choosing to help even when it hurts. The child listened, and something inside them shifted. The queen saw it before anyone else did. She noticed the change in posture, in tone, in how the child began to pause before decisions. Empathy. Among her species, this was dangerous. Rulers were trained to remove emotion early, to see lives as numbers, outcomes as acceptable loss. Compassion created hesitation. Hesitation weakened command. She tested the child carefully, asking questions designed to measure loyalty, efficiency, cold judgment. The answers were wrong. Not incorrect, but human. The child asked who would suffer, who would be saved, why sacrifice was necessary at all. The queen felt something close to fear. This was not corruption by force, not manipulation. It was learning. Human empathy was spreading, quietly, naturally. The court noticed too. Whispers followed the child. Some called it weakness. Others called it infection. The human did not see himself as the cause. He only saw a child asking questions, and answered honestly. That honesty shook foundations older than his species. As the child changed, the galaxy shifted again. Enemies who had waited in silence began to move. They saw hesitation as opportunity. Border systems went dark. Trade routes collapsed. Allies demanded reassurance the queen could not give. War was no longer a possibility. It was approaching. The council pressed her harder than ever before. They demanded the human be removed, silenced, erased from influence. He has altered the air, they argued. He threatens continuity. The queen listened, but her gaze kept returning to the child, who now looked at the world differently. She faced an impossible choice. Tradition meant control. Control meant certainty. Certainty meant survival as they had always known it. But tradition had also made them predictable, rigid, vulnerable to those who understood their patterns. The human represented chaos, but also adaptation. Empathy could weaken command, or it could create loyalty deeper than fear. As war fleets gathered beyond their borders, the queen summoned the human privately. "You did not mean to do this," she said, not accusing, stating truth. He nodded. "I just treated the child like a person." That answer hurt more than any rebellion. "You are changing what cannot be changed," she said. "I'm just answering questions," he replied. She looked at him then, truly looked, at a being so fragile by their standards, yet strong in ways they had never learned to measure. Outside, alarms echoed softly through the palace. Long-range warnings, enemy movements confirmed. The queen understood something then. The old way would not survive what was coming, but neither might the new. She turned away from him, her voice low, heavy with truth. "If my people fall, it will be because of you." Not as blame alone, but as acknowledgement, because the future had already changed, and a human child saver now stood at the center of it. War did not arrive with ceremony. It arrived with silence. Trade signals vanished first. Then listening posts went dark one by one. Enemy fleets appeared only after systems failed. The queen's empire responded as it always had, with precision, with perfect formations, with technology designed to end conflicts before they began. It did not work. The enemy knew their patterns. They had studied every response, every formation, every calculated move. Alien weapons fired exactly as expected, and were countered exactly as planned. For the first time in generations, the Empire began to lose ground. The human watched from command decks filled with controlled panic. He saw officers waiting for systems to correct themselves, waiting for plans to adjust automatically. They trusted machines. He trusted moments. "Your responses are too clean," he said quietly. "They know where you'll be before you move." No one answered him at first. Then a defensive line collapsed. Thousands of lives lost in seconds, because no one had broken formation. The human stepped forward, not as a commander, not as an authority, As someone who's been hunted, he said, they think like predators, not planners. The Queen listened, her eyes sharp, tired, searching for something beyond tradition. He offered a solution no alien would accept, a mission without calculated survival, a strike that relied on confusion instead of certainty. I'll lead it, he said. Silence followed. The council protested immediately. The mission path crossed unstable zones, unshielded regions, spaces where no alien ship could survive. That route guarantees loss, they said. He nodded. It guarantees surprise. The force he assembled was small. Mixed species, those already considered expendable, those willing to follow someone who did not promise safety. He broke rules openly, ignored standard formations, disabled automated targeting systems. They flew blind by alien standards, but alive by human ones. When the enemy detected them, it was already too late. The human altered timing mid-approach, changed vectors without warning, used debris fields as cover. Where aliens waited for commands, he made decisions. Where machines predicted outcomes, he accepted risk. The enemy fleet hesitated, just for a moment, because nothing matched expectation. That moment was enough. The strike was messy, unclean, imperfect, but it worked. Supply nodes collapsed. Command chains broke. The enemy retreated not because they were defeated, but because they were confused. The mixed force returned damaged, scarred, reduced, but victorious. The palace received confirmation in stunned silence. An impossible mission completed, not through superior weapons, but through refusal to follow rules the enemy understood. The Queen stood before the council, listening as reports came in. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. She looked at the human, who stood quietly, injured again, unimpressed by survival. In that moment, she understood. Humans did not win by being stronger. They won by being willing to lose everything. Sacrifice was not a last option for them. It was a tool, an old one, refined over centuries of fighting impossible odds. She addressed the court publicly for the first time since the war began. Our enemy predicted our power, she said. They did not predict our change. Her gaze shifted to the human. Then she did something no one expected. She did not call him by his species. Stand forward, she said. The word human did not leave her mouth. The silence that followed was heavier than any weapon, because everyone understood. A line had been crossed, and the Queen herself had acknowledged it. The Queen summoned the council at a time when no alarm sounded. That alone made them uneasy. We usually decided meetings now, not silence. She stood before them without armor, a sign of truth among her people. Her voice carried without amplification, calm, controlled. We can no longer describe events using our old models, she said. Our predictions are failing. Our certainty is weakening. The council shifted, some in confusion, some in anger. This began with the human. One voice said, he disrupted royal fate. He disrupted military order. The Queen did not deny it. Yes, she replied. He did. That answer spread unease through the chamber. She continued. In our language, there's a word used only once in recorded history. A word for beings who alter outcomes simply by choosing. The lights dimmed slightly as she spoke it, a sound with no direct human translation. Then she explained. It means one who rewrites fate. The council reacted immediately. Some rose in protest. Others demanded clarification. That title is forbidden. It implies influence beyond law. It implies exception. The Queen raised her hand. Silence returned. He has earned it, she said. Not through power. Not through ambition. But through refusal to obey inevitability. That was when division became open conflict. Some council members argued he must be erased, his existence removed from records, his actions reframed as coincidence. If others learn this is possible, they warned, order will collapse. Others argued survival mattered more than order. That rigid tradition had nearly destroyed them. Outside the chamber, the human waited, unaware of titles, unaware of fear. He felt only exhaustion. and the quiet sense that something larger was forming around him. The child arrived before the decision could be finalized. Not escorted, not announced. They walked into the council chamber openly, head held high, eyes clear. Gasps followed. No air had ever entered an active council session. The child stopped beside the human, reached out, and placed their hand against his arm. "I choose him," the child said, voice steady, untrained but sincere, not because he is strong, but because he stays. The council froze. This was not symbolic. This was declaration. The queen felt the weight of it settle fully. The future ruler had spoken, and spoken with empathy. In that moment, she understood the truth she had been avoiding. Humanity was no longer external, no longer observers, no longer temporary allies. They were inside the future now, woven into decisions that shaped survival. She dismissed the council without vote, without compromise. Later, she stood alone with the human on the observation platform. Stars burned slowly beyond the glass. War still waited. Enemies still gathered. "You did not seek this," she said. He shook his head. "I just made choices." She looked at him, not with fear alone, but with clarity. "Our species survives by control," she said. "Yours survives by refusal." She paused, then spoke the words that would echo through history. "You are not human anymore, and that terrifies us." Because what he represented could not be undone, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The enemy came in full force at last. No more probing attacks. No more tests. Their fleets filled the dark like a moving horizon. Weapons charged. Outcomes calculated. The Queen's empire prepared as it always had. Defensive lines set. Systems aligned. Probability models running endlessly. And still, something was missing. The human stood in the command chamber, quiet, watching patterns shift across the stars. He saw what the machines could not. The enemy was confident, too confident. "They think this is already over," he said. The Queen turned to him, her voice steady. "What do you see?" "They expect us to fight for victory," he replied. "They don't understand sacrifice." The final confrontation did not begin with weapons. It began with an offer. A transmission cut through every channel, directed at one being only, the human. The enemy spoke with many voices at once. They offered him power beyond limitation, a body that would not age, authority across systems, a place above species and law. "You have already broken fate," they said. "Rule it." The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to him. He felt the weight of it, the temptation to end suffering forever, to control outcomes, to decide who lived. He thought of the child, of small questions asked quietly, of empathy learned without command. He refused. "I won't rule," he said. "I won't decide who matters." The enemy paused, confused. "I choose survival," he continued, "not dominance." The response was immediate. The enemy attacked with everything they had. The humans' final plan was not clean, not perfect. It involved drawing the enemy deeper, forcing them to overcommit, creating chaos instead of confrontation. He ordered retreats that looked like failures, sacrificed positions to save lives, turned loss into movement. Alien commanders struggled to follow, but the Queen trusted him, because nothing else had worked. When the enemy advanced too far, their formations broke, their calculations failed. The Empire struck not at the front, but at support, at connection, at certainty. The battle ended not with annihilation, but with collapse. Enemy fleets scattered, their command unable to adapt, unable to understand an opponent who refused to seek control. When silence returned to space, it felt different this time. The war was over, not because one side ruled, but because one side endured. The galaxy changed quietly, borders redrawn not by conquest, but by caution. In the aftermath, the Queen stood before her people, the child beside her, the human slightly behind. She did not name him by rank or species. She spoke his place into existence without defining it. He was not ruler, not symbol. He was proof. Later, alone beneath distant stars, she spoke the truth, She had finally understood, not as a queen, but as a witness to change. After he saved my child, I could no longer call him human, because humans had become something greater.